see you guys in the dark.
I used to love camping when I was little. Our family would go multiple times a year with a large group of my parents' friends and their kids. On average, there were maybe 10 of us at a time, which was a bit of a logistic challenge since we always headed out to one of the really remote beaches on the coast. Actually, we weren't the only ones. There were always yachts bobbing just off the shore with people on them and other campers lining up and down the beach. Most of them also had children or teenagers, so it wasn't a wild party scene. It was very much an informal family holiday spot. There was even a small building with toilets and showers installed nearby, even though this was the middle of nowhere. I guess the local council must have figured it out and got sick of people peeing behind bushes. We took a trip up in spring of 2011. I'm really bad with time, but I know this because I got my dog in winter of 2010. After picking her out that November from the shelter as a birthday gift from me to me, as I paid her adoption fees. I named her Parmesan. Parmesan came up as a 6-month-old puppy who had been rescued from a dogfighting situation. We're not entirely sure what breed she is exactly, but my best guess is a Staffy mix. She's a wonderfully well-tempered dog with people and most dogs, but you absolutely do not threaten her. She'll have you. So by the time of this camping trip, I'd had Parmesan for a few months. She never came camping with us before, but far as my family are concerned, dogs go on camping trips. So when we all piled into the car, she came too. Unusually though, none of the family friends could make it, so it was only me, my sister, my dad, and my mother. I didn't mind. I wasn't that attached to the other kids anyways. I'd rather play with my dog, and I'd still have my sister. The drive took the best part of 6 hours, and because we left a bit later, we arrived at sunset. Not a good time to be building a tent, but we'd expected to arrive to other campers already set up, and the beach illuminated in campfires. The beach was completely empty. In spite of this, my parents started taking stuff out and trying to build the tent. They asked us to fetch some of the lighter bags from the boot of the car while they sat pointing a flashlight at the stand to see poorly. I rolled down the window of the car for Parmesan before getting out. It was pretty hot for that time of year, and I wanted her to have some air. As we're fumbling around in the dark, on a beach, in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty spooky. The one road that led to this beach was circular and had a bridge over the water, meaning you could basically circle around the beach like a big O shape if you felt like it. I wasn't paying any attention to the road. I was complaining that I was tired, as kids are. After maybe 15 minutes of my dad trying to nail the tent into the sand, my mom's asking him had he seen the car drive around. It's been a few times. My dad shrugged her off. He sort of liked that. I don't know if he said anything back to her, but after a few more minutes, a car pulled up next to ours on the road, and someone got out. It was maybe 15 or 20 feet from the cars to where we were, and the light was pretty low, except for the torches. We weren't expecting to see anyone else out there at this point, and I think my mom said it must be the security. I don't know why a random beach would have security. I think what she meant was the Wildlife Trust or something, as they do occasionally come down to do their nosy jobs. The guy was walking pretty unevenly. He must have been drunk or high, because he had that stagger on him. There was no way that this guy was sober. Cool. A junkie. Not an unusual find, but it's rare to see them in the wild. As he walked into the flashlight range, we realized that he was carrying a large knife, maybe 15 inches. Although I was small at the time, so maybe my sense of scale was off. I don't like my dad, but credit to him once he saw that he got up immediately, holding on to the camping mallet, and put us behind him. The man began to shout wildly at us that we can't camp here, and he was just letting us know. My dad tried to initially be a bit low-key with the guy, and told him that that was fine. We'd leave, but this didn't work. He kept coming closer to us, so my dad started shouting, and the man kept shouting back at him. My sister and I were crying. I remember shaking. I was utterly terrified, as I'm sure anyone would be in that situation. It really did seem like this guy and my dad were going to fight, and I'm going to be honest. I didn't fancy my dad's chances. While it's grim to consider, I'm absolutely convinced that he could have killed my dad, and possibly us as well, once he was done, as I don't think my mother could have had the common sense to run with us. I love her, but she's always put Dad and her relationship with him above us. This isn't how it went down. A bolt from the black, like a wolf descending on its prey, took us all by surprise. Most of all, the man with the knife. In that moment, Parmesan, who was the apex predator large canines represent in nature. She got him good by the arm and clamped down hard, ripping his jacket and shredding the skin underneath. He dropped the knife, as it had been in the arm she got by him. He kicked her, he punched her, and eventually got her off. He grabbed the knife from the sand and ran back to his car and drove off. The dog didn't follow. She stayed with us, muzzle covered in blood. Quickly as we could, we gathered our things, and we all got back into the car, all pretty shook up by the incident. I looked her over. She was okay, but the car's window was much more open than I'd left it. We think that happened when the shouting started. She must have put her paws up on the gap, as it was an older car and had the roll-down windows and not an electric button. We think she must have been able to hit it with her paws to force it down enough to squeeze out. This is not the end of the story. We were all pretty scared, and since we had the dog with us, we couldn't book into the hotel for the night. My parents decided just to drive home so that we'd all feel safe, but first had to drive into the nearest town for petrol, as we were kind of low. I spent the time trying to clean my dog up a little. I'd always loved dogs, but what she has just done for me blew my mind. As we drove into town, we came across a gas station, but it looked closed. My dad drove up closer to get a better look and stuck his head out the window to get a better look at the sign. My mom asked what on earth he was doing, and he told her that he was trying to see if when it opens. Never. My heart sank. Parked in the corner behind a van, so we didn't see him at first, was the man with the knife. He was sitting on the hood of his car, using some tissue paper to clean up his arm. It looked pretty bad. Without stopping to refuel or look anywhere else in town, my dad drove right out of there. We decided to go to the next town over, but this was remove. The next town over was 60 miles away. He didn't have that much gas. He realized, as we began driving, we were going to break down, but that was fine, Dad said. We have AAA. They would come tow us home, or at least somewhere acceptable for the night. It's better than staying in the last town. After driving for maybe 5 minutes, lights flash us from behind. Another car. The same car the man had been driving. It was him, following us. He must have realized that we were low on gas. The next half hour was one of the worst half hours of my life. I had a complete and utter breakdown, as did everyone did. I could tell my parents were trying to keep it under wraps so it wouldn't upset us. But we weren't really little kids. We were both double digits. We knew how dangerous the situation was. Dad turned off the radio to conserve gas, and the man followed us for 50 miles before he peeled away onto another road. Our fuel meter was on the big red E for empty for the last 10 miles. We were driving on fumes. I don't really believe in God, but if he does exist, that was definitely one of his miracles. Once we got there, we drove into a petrol station and refilled the fuel tank before driving the rest of the way home. Sister and I slept in the car after that. I only woke up once we made it all the way home. I'm just grateful nothing worse has happened than that. After getting some sleep, my mom phoned the non-emergency line of the police and reported what had happened. They never got back to her after that, but apparently the woman she spoke to said that she may wish to in the future, as he matched the description given of a suspect wanted in relation to a murder charge. No idea if he was actually the guy or just a random psycho. As I said, they never got back to her. So that's the takeaway then. Other than a crazy man on the beach, I really don't want to see you again. Well, for me, it's that I love Parmesan. She's still with us now. Old as the hills, and twice as grizzled as one of Mom's friends likes to joke. I don't know why she did what she did that day. I couldn't tell you what her thought process was. What I do know is that this poor puppy was born into an environment where they abused and neglected her, only to be rescued and taken to a shelter where her mother and siblings all found homes before her. Despite how badly people had treated her, when I took her home, she forgave, but never forgot. I think the saying is, I never trust a person who doesn't like a dog, but I always trust a dog when they don't like a person. They have a very good understanding of human body language, and I think she must have understood how much danger we were really in.
If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like, and hit the bell for notifications on future videos and become a stalker of the night. And I'll see you next time.